The 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 15.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And happy Thanksgiving to all of my American friends. I'm actually recording this from home on Thanksgiving morning 2014. So for all of you guys out there, happy Thanksgiving. And I just want to take this quick opportunity to say how thankful I am for several things in my life going on right now. And first and foremost on the podcast, I'm thankful for you guys that are tuning in every week, listening to the 18 Strong Podcast. And then, of course, the biggest thing that I'm thankful for is my family, my kids, my beautiful wife, and my extended family out at Elevated Performance, and all the great professionals and people that I've met in this journey of 18 Strong and my training career with Elevated Performance. And then, of course, got to thank the guests that come on the show. Without the guests, there's really nothing to listen to except for this guy jabbering on about random stuff. So I really appreciate everybody that's come on and all the future guests that we have coming. So thank you guys very much, and look forward to a very good rest of 2014 and into 2015 with the 18 Strong Podcast and 18strong.com. With that being said, let's get into our episode for today, which is with a gentleman who has done what pretty much almost every one of us has probably said at one point in our golfing career, that wouldn't you love to be able to quit your job and go play professional golf? And this guy has taken that initiative to shoot for that dream. And the most crazy part about it is that this guy, up before the age of 30, never played the game of golf, had never even swung a golf club before then. And so my guest today is Dan McLaughlin from TheDanPlan. If you haven't heard of TheDanPlan, we'll get into a lot of it when I'm interviewing Dan in a little bit. Go check it out at TheDanPlan.com. And like I said, we've all said at one point in time, oh, you know what? If I had the opportunity to practice every day, play every day, train every day, I could be a professional golfer. Or I've never thought that, because I know my limitations and my skills, but I'm sure that a lot of you guys out there have thought that, and a lot of you guys that are on the tours and mini tours know how hard that is, and probably think this guy's crazy. So would love for you to get your opinion on Dan's initiative, Dan's goals, and what he's got going on. It's a very inspirational story, just about a guy picking a goal, going after a dream, and really taking it to heart. So without further ado, here is my interview with Dan McLaughlin from TheDanPlan, and I will catch you on the other side. Hey, what's up, Dan? Thanks for coming on to the 18 Strong Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
You bet. For all the listeners out there, this is Dan McLaughlin, and he is a guy that I've been wanting to ask questions to for a long time, ever since I found out about Dan and his project. It's called TheDanPlan, and if you haven't heard about it, Dan has completely stopped everything in his life to dedicate full attention to playing golf, and with the aspirations of becoming a professional golfer. And so, Dan, I'm going to let you kind of explain the background of TheDanPlan, give a little idea to the listeners of where you were before this whole thing started, how the idea came about, and where your journey has taken you so far.
Well, thanks, man. The basic idea is that I'm testing the 10,000 hour hypothesis. This is the theory by K. Anders Ericsson that it was kind of made popular originally by Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, and since then has gotten a lot of positive and negative attention. And the idea is that you can put in 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. It's not just kind of like doing something, but it's actually highly focused practice working on your weaknesses in any specific field to make it to the highest level. So before this, I was a commercial photographer, and then around when I was about 29, early 30, about 30 years old, decided to quit my job and head out in a completely new direction and focus on golf for, basically it's like a flip of coin reason, and put in 10,000 hours to see how far I could actually get in a sport that I had never played never even tried before I was 30 years old.
Yeah, so what you said it was kind of a flip of a coin. What made you pick golf, or what were the other choices?
Well, my choices personally, it really came down to, after a lot of thought. I mean, there's a lot of different options. It came down to music, which I was going to do drums or architecture or golf. And I ended up choosing golf because I wanted to do something that was physical. I wanted to do something that was outside. I wanted to do something that had zero previous experience in. And I wanted to do something that was basically objective. Whereas I saw music and drums and art was a little more subjective, as in you could put in 10,000 hours, and at the end of it, somebody could say like, "Oh, you're amazing," and then the person next to them would be like, "Oh, you're awful."
Right.
Whereas golf is so specific. Like you have a stick, a ball, and a hole, and how many strokes it takes you to get the ball in that hole. That at the end of the day, that is where you are.
And so what I read on the website. What do you consider your criterion as far as, yes, I made it, no, I didn't? I know PGA Q School was one of the things, and now obviously Q School has changed a little bit. But so what's the bookmark at the end?
I mean, my goal is I just want to play in a PGA Tour event, and I want to make the cut and play on the weekend. There's a whole number of different ways to get there, and it's the same with any individual. So for me, if I can get to the point where I can play in a PGA event and then also play well on Thursday and Friday and make the cut and play on the weekend, then to me that is a success.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. There's thousands and thousands of guys out there trying to do that. So to make it to that point, I'd say definitely a success, especially starting from where you did. And this was in 2010 that you started this, right?
Yeah, April 2010 was the first time I ever picked up a golf club, and that was just a putter.
Yeah, explain that a little, because I read on your website you started just with a putter, right?
Yeah, I started with a putter, and the idea was to approach it like a kid does, and start the hole and work away. So I kind of spent a lot of time working in 1 foot, then 3 foot, then 5 foot putts, and I basically spent the first 5 months only putting and slowly working away from the hole, and then started chipping, and eventually 6-7 months into it, was playing games from about 20 yards off the green, and about a year into it, I took my first full swing. And 18 months after I picked up a putter, I hit a driver for the first time.
That is unreal. I mean, just the patience of holding out that long. I mean, most guys can't even go to the driving range for one session without pulling the driver out of the bag. And to think that you waited that long to just take a full swing, but then also to so how long was it before you played your full round of golf?
Well, I actually played. Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I played full rounds of golf, about maybe 10, 12 months into it. But my full rounds of golf at the time were from 50 yards. It's 18 holes from 50 yards. So
okay.
If you think like a full round from like the men's tees with a full set of clubs, the first time I actually did that was January 2012.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. All right, so we're going to get into some details about your practice schedule and your team and everything like that. But digging deeper back, what made you really want to take on an experiment like this? Not just golf, but just the whole 10,000 hour principle. And by the way, the book Outliers is fantastic if you guys haven't read that book, as well as a couple other books that I'm sure, Dan, I know you've read, The Talent Code and Talent is Overrated, and those other great reads in that whole respect. But what made you want to do this?
For me, it was a huge part of it was the fact that when I worked a few of my jobs before I started this, I was kind of roaming around more like freelance photography, and I worked with a lot of people who they loved their jobs, but their passion and what they really wanted to do in life was outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're between 35 and 55, and all of them had one commonality in that they didn't really want to pursue their life goals because they thought it was kind of quote unquote too late, or that they, kind of wanted to work towards retirement in their current career. And I don't know, it just seemed a little bit like a defeatist attitude. And I saw that a lot just in people in general. And I kind of want to just take it upon me to basically demonstrate that if you're really willing to dedicate yourself to something new, that you can succeed in that endeavor, no matter what it is. And that's why I picked something that was probably one of the hardest things in life to do. There's 250 people in the world who are on the PGA Tour, and there's really about 45 or maybe even as low as 30 who make a really solid annual career in it. So if I could make it up to that level, then basically anybody can change gears at any point and make it and be successful in whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I love the concept behind the whole thing, and just the mentality of being able to do something that you love. Even, we've all got our jobs and we all get kind of stuck in our rat race mentality, but to be able to kind of prove to people that say you can't, that, hey, you can change directions at any point. Now, my question to you is, what if you ended up not liking golf and you actually hated the sport? Would you have continued just to prove your theory?
No. I gave myself basically a 1-year window. Actually, at the beginning, it was 6 months. If I didn't really love what I did, I told myself at the 6-month or the 1-year period, I would, be willing to just change directions and go back to what I was doing before.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the bare bones of the project and your team. I assume you've got a swing coach, a trainer, mental game. So who makes up your team working with the TheDanPlan?
That's a really good question. I mean, right now I actually don't even have a swing coach. It's winter. The guy I was working with this summer is down in Palm Springs, and I'm 4 years into it, so I'm getting to a point where I kind of understand the swing and can do it on my own with my flight scope here. And I have a trainer that I do work with, and I don't necessarily need to see that person that often at this point. Similarly, because after you meet with somebody for 2 years, you kind of get a general idea of what you need to do with your physical body. I've essentially gotten to the point where, I'm not done with swing coaches, but the most important person is the mental coach.
Right.
And the mental coach for me at this juncture is Vision 54. You see these ladies, Lynn and Pia, and they're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just saw them speak 2-3 weeks ago.
Nice. Yeah. I think they are my biggest coaches at this point, because physically and swing-wise and everything, you essentially kind of understand what you need to do, where you need to go, and you need tune-ups every once in a while. But the mental coaching, that's something that never really leaves you. I would put money on the fact that nobody, even on the PGA Tour, at any level of anything, could get away without having a mental coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we've seen over the past several years really become a lot more in the spotlight, is the fact that most of these guys do have somebody that they work with, some kind of sports psychologist or some sort of mental game coach, that even not necessarily like the stereotypical come lay on my couch and tell me your problems, but more like, let's put together a plan, let's figure out how to practice properly. And I would imagine with the structure of your whole project that you've got a pretty well laid out and structured plan as far as practicing. And I know, obviously, just your writing and things like that. I mean, it looks like you take notes every day. You jot down notes. You keep the audience updated. So I would imagine all of that stuff takes quite a bit of planning throughout your day. And even the mental game coach helps with that type of stuff. Is that right?
Definitely. Definitely. As far as my writing goes, I just do my own thing, but mental coaches can seriously help with, any, like, your practice outline and what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is just how to focus, what to focus on, how to, be your practice self when you're in the middle of a serious competition. Because we can all go out there, no matter what your endeavor is, if it's, if you play tennis and you're just hitting against friends, you can hit really good shots. But then when it comes down to the line and there's something out there and you have to win, or, you have to make a good golf shot, or you have to perform well in the SATs or whatever. And that's when the mental coach comes in and can really encourage you and just show you the right ways and how to focus and how to, because we have so much more skill than we think we have. It's just being able to apply it.
Yeah. And, right now we've got Q school going on, and I've got a couple guys that I work with that are going through second stage of Q school, and I know all these guys around the country are finding themselves in that position where it's it could be one putt, one chip shot that makes or breaks your career for this next year or whatever. And being able to find that, well, like you said, your practice self. I think that's a great term. Find your practice self in your competition and be able to put yourself there and hit that same shot that you hit against your buddy. When you guys are playing for a $5 Nassau or whatever, makes a big difference. Now, what does your daily or weekly schedule look like?
It depends on the season. We've had a very unexpectedly early kind of blizzard of, I think the whole country has just some weird weather. Usually it doesn't freeze here until about February. And we got, over the last week, I think there's been 5 days where the low was in the 20s here in Portland, which is extremely unusual. So my home course has had temporary tees for the last 5 days. So it's been weird. It's been weird. So my practice schedule, it's all up to the gods. It just depends on what they want. I can go out and hit balls off of mats, and I don't know. I don't think it's very beneficial. So I've basically just been playing a few rounds lately, just playing some match play, and putting some money on the line just to stay engaged in the game. But I'm basically waiting for Portland to thaw out, which it should tomorrow. Tomorrow's supposed to be about 45 degrees. Normally, I spend a lot of time, I'll go out and I'll be out in the course from 9 a.m. until dark. But when the weird weather comes, you just have to do your own thing.
And do you say in more of a perfect weather climate, do you have kind of a set routine or certain things that you're really working on right now, whether it be short game or driving range, or do you have different segments of the day laid out, or how do you do that? And then when do you fit your fitness stuff in too?
Fitness stuff is always in the morning. I don't know. It just seems everybody has a different schedule. Some people like working out at night. Some people like working out in the middle of the day. But just follow your routine. I follow my routine. It's fitness in the morning, and then go out to the course. And I usually try to get to the course by between 9 and 10. After breakfast and a workout, and then once you get to the course, I've actually moved away from doing a lot of range work, and I do more short course work, short game work, putting and chipping, and then try to do all of my full swing work out actually on the golf course.
Nice.
I think that's something that happens once you kind of start owning your swing, you can make a transition from, spending a lot of time in the range, which has absolutely no real implications, because you don't have specific goals and you're just kind of hitting balls. So you can like transition that and work on the course. And sometimes I'll put down 2 or 3 balls and work on stuff on the course. And other times I just play money games, just because that kind of keeps you engaged and it makes it real in a way.
Sure. All right, let's talk some numbers. What kind of progress have you seen? What changes have you seen? And where is your handicap these days?
Right now, I just went up a little bit. I think I'm about a 3.1. I got down to maybe a 2.6 or 2.7 earlier in the year. A lot of it's just played a lot of tournaments that the results weren't quite as good as I wanted to. And I would like to get down to the single digits. And when I say single digits, I mean like 1 or lower.
Right.
I want to get under a 1. Like single digits, like a point something.
Sure.
I want to get down to there next year.
So 2010, you had never touched a club before, and now you've been down as low as a 2.6, and you're currently at a 3.1. That's pretty impressive numbers.
Yeah, thank you. It's when you're in the middle of something, you just always are concerned about the future, and you don't think about how far you've come. But it's always good to just be able to sit back for a second and see where you've gotten to from where you started.
And where are you in the 10,000 hour process?
I'm 5,700 hours in, so 57%.
Wow. And you have a tracker on your site, right? So when people go to the website, they can see exactly how many hours you have left, correct?
Yeah, I do. I haven't updated in a little while, but just because I've been quite busy over the last week. But it's always a couple of weeks within complete accuracy, so it's a good tracker.
Awesome. And you mentioned you've been pretty busy the past few weeks. I know you were out of town. You've had some trips, both golf related, then some interviews and stuff. Where has this whole journey taken you, both as far as exposure, travel, events that you've played, all that stuff?
It actually took a little while, but this year I was invited to come and interview and play in Australia, as well as Switzerland and Sweden, which all of that was great fun. I got to play courses in all those places and just kind of travel the world a little bit and see some people. And it was also good for my golf because they invited me out, so I had to perform. When you are in a plane for 20 hours, you get off and you're completely jet lagged, and 12 hours later you are being filmed by an Australian TV show, and they want you to hit really good shots and perform well. I mean, that's about as much pressure as any amateur could ever want.
Right. Yeah. Now, did you expect when you started this thing in 2010 that this would take you to these different directions and these different places?
I never really expected to travel. I did expect a little bit of exposure just because my background's in marketing, and I don't know. It's just honestly, it's a good story. It's everybody wants to see someone like the average Joe compete against the pros. So every time I watch the Masters, I watch the U.S. Open, or I watch the Olympics or anything, I just want some average dude who was going all in, and I want to see them compete with the pros. And that's kind of how I see my story. It's an average dude competing with the pros. So, with 4 years of working on it, I always kind of expected a little bit of a nod from the corporate America. I haven't really quite got that, but I've gotten tons of really good, just the people. People email all the time and a lot of support from the average people. So it's good. I'm just trying to keep it going on my own savings and, just keep the dream alive in a sense.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to read through your feeds on your blog and, just the encouragement from people and like, hey, Dan, we're pulling for you, and the feedback that they're giving and the different stuff and them following you. Kind of like the Rocky Balboa of golf. It's kind of cool to just watch this story develop.
That's exactly how I see it, man. From the very beginning, it's Rocky IV, because that was my favorite Rocky. It's I see all like the corporate golf America and all the golfers is Drago, and I'm Rocky, and I'm just like training and freaking Siberian Russia, and like
exactly.
trying to get to the point where I can actually compete.
That's awesome. Carrying logs on your back, running through the snow.
Exactly.
All right, so you mentioned, running on your savings. Do you have any kind of sponsors, funding, anything that's helping you with this journey?
No, not yet. I'm just doing it on my own. So, which is great. That's how I wanted to do it from the beginning, and eventually it would be really pleasant to have a sponsor. But at the same time, it's just about whether or not you can do it as an individual. So, keeping it real and keeping it under my own dime is pretty important.
Gotcha. And is any kind of equipment or anything like that been donated to you by anybody? Anybody supporting the little man out there?
Yeah, Titleist. Titleist has actually provided all my clubs.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, they're cool. And Flight Scope has given me a flight scope, and and actually cricket shirts, and it's a golf shirt company out of Austin, Texas. They've helped a lot. So between those, Titleist, Flight Scope, and cricket has helped a ton. And also Click Gear carts. They've Click Gear has provided me with a push cart.
Oh, cool. Very nice. All right, I know our audience loves to hear stories about, your journey, and they want to kind of be there with you, when you're practicing and the grind that you're going through. So tell me a story of a time that you maybe experienced a bit of a failure out there during your practice sessions or during your round, and did you ever have a time where you thought maybe you didn't want to continue this journey and you're ready to quit?
No. I don't know about a time where I wanted to quit, but I've been invited to play in a lot of amazing courses. And I think one time, I was invited down to Atlanta to play East Lake, which is where they had the Coca-Cola annual championship. And, up until that point, I've been hitting, mid 70s, low 70s, playing really well, playing to like a 2.6. And I get out there and playing with a bunch of strangers and, really famous course. And the first thing I do is just duck hook the ball, like right into the trees. Had to punch out, end up doubling the hole. Second hole, just duck hook it again. Third hole, duck hook it again. And it's just one of those days where you just can't get anything to go online. And, I realized at the end of the day, I think I shot like close to a 90. Even though, the last 2 weeks before that I'd been mid-70s, no problem. And I realized that there's just literally nothing harder and nothing better than playing golf.
Yeah, it's just you win some, you lose some. Some days you got it, some days you don't. But I would imagine that kind of tested your will a little bit, but then you realize how great of a challenging game it is. So that's pretty cool. What about a story of success that you've had out there where, you're kind of like, all right, maybe this is a reality. Maybe I will be able to play in a PGA event one day?
I think I played the course today where it was the first course I ever shot under par. And a week after I hit the 5,000 hour mark, I played around, and my playing partner was a lawyer, and he is also the rules commissioner for the local men's club of the course I was playing at. And we were just playing with the foursome. We had some, just like a little bet on the line. I didn't really think about it, but I got up to I was on the 17th hole, and I realized at that time I had literally not thought about it, but I was 200 par through 17, and it was a really easy day. Like, it was one of those days where I missed a ton of putts, and everything was just like a tap in par, and I was 2 under on 17, and just easy par on that one, and hit the green on 18, maybe like 5 feet away, 6 feet away from the hole, and just barely missed that putt and tapped in. And after I tapped in, I realized, like, wow, this just shot 200 par, and that's a pretty difficult course, and it was like there was nothing to think about. Like, it was never like a challenge. It was just whether or not I made the putts. And at that point I realized, like, okay, well, I get to this point on a regular basis, and yeah, that is PGA Tour golf.
Yeah, just a ho-hum 2 under par, no big deal, right?
Yeah, like, it wasn't even night. It was just like I missed everything. Like, you miss everything, you still shoot 200 par. Like, it's not like everything fell in, you chipped a bunch in. It's a ho-hum. Like, should have been better, but still, 200 par.
Right. That's got to be a pretty good feeling. Can't say I've ever been anywhere close to that at any point, but congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Some big progress. So, all right, what's the ultimate mission behind the Dan plan? So this thing plays out 2016. You've got your 10,000 hours. Let's say you've played in your PGA event. And then is the plan, let's keep on moving forward? Let's keep going for the big dream of playing on tour full time?
That is the ultimate dream, yes. Basically, I'm just working my way up to playing the PGA Tour event. That's my goal. I don't really know what's going to happen before or after that, but it's just to get to the skill set that I can compete and then make it on and play in a PGA Tour event. That's really the only goal.
All right, and here's the harder question. What if you get to that point and you go and you play in several events, don't make it to the PGA event? How long do you continue on this journey, and if you don't get to that goal that you initially set?
Well, I have 4,300 hours left, and I don't know about how long or what, but it's going to be about 4 years for me now to complete those hours in a realistic manner. So that puts me to a little less, maybe like 3.5 years. So somewhere around April, May 2018, and my goal is just to keep focused and keep on working and keep pushing it forward.
Nice. And 2018, I believe the PGA Championship is here in St. Louis, Missouri. So hopefully in that time, maybe you've made some huge strides, and we'll see you here in St. Louis, Missouri.
That would be awesome. I love this too. I went up to the top of the arch one time, and that was just the incredible time. St. Louis is a great city.
Cool. Well, if you ever make it back, we got to hook up and we'll get around to golfing around here.
I'd love to. You guys have a PGA Tour event, right?
Let's see. They had a Champions Tour event last year at Belle Rive Country Club, and Belle Rive is hosting the 2018 PGA Championship, which will be the 100th PGA Championship. So that'll be a big one. That'll be pretty.
Oh, yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah. All right, so before I let you go, I got to ask you just a couple more questions. First, what has you most excited in your progress, or what's going on with everything in the Dan plan right now? Anything new and exciting?
New and exciting. Oh, well, shoot, man. In March, I got invited down to San Luis Obispo, California, to spend a month working with Tiger Woods' first coach. His name is Rudy Duran. He worked with Tiger when Tiger was 4 to 10 years old. So I'm looking forward to figuring out if I can rent a room somewhere down there, and then if I can work with Rudy Duran for the month of March, which I think is going to be like huge.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's a really, really cool guy. He kind of lives down there and works down there, and he's worked with so many like kids and developed so many people and like worked on like just I don't know. I think that's just going to be awesome.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. All right, and then I would imagine over the last 4 years of your journey, you've learned a ton about yourself. You've learned a ton about the game, and just implementing a plan that you've put into place. What advice would you give to the audience who are generally golfers, aspiring golfers, either looking to go pro or just play some really good high-level golf? What last parting piece of advice do you have for them?
For golfers, that's a really good question. Man, for golfers, I mean, I think that the main thing is just to love what you do. You know, there's so many swing thoughts and there's so many different like ways to do everything, and you just have to believe in it and you gotta love it, because at the end of the day, if you don't love it or if you question it, there's 1,000 different ways and directions you can go. So just believe in yourself and just love it.
I think that's fantastic advice. And Dan, where can the audience find you? Where can they follow your journey? And most importantly, how can they support you in your complete endeavor?
They can, the fans can support me by giving me a call and playing some rounds wherever I go. And the website's TheDanPlan.com, and Twitter is @TheDanPlan, and Facebook is, I think, TheDanPlan Golf. Mostly is, when I'm on the road and I'm going places that people want to play around and, put a Coke on it or something. Let's do it.
Awesome. And Dan, they all know, everybody listening to the show knows that I'll have in the show notes all the links to your website, your Facebook, your Twitter. I'm going to put up like your main video that you have on your website. If that's cool with you, I'll put it on the show notes page, give people a little more history about, you and the whole project. And then hopefully they'll give you a call and play some golf with you. And like I said, when you come back around the St. Louis area, would love to take you out and play around with you.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'd love to come through the heart of America. So hopefully we'll cross paths soon. Absolutely.
Well, Dan, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. I know you've been really busy lately, and you're ready to get back after it after being on the road and the cold weather and all that stuff. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. We'll be following you, and I'll keep the fans posted with everything you got going on.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Dan. All right. What an inspirational story by Dan McLaughlin. There's just something to be said about a guy who has a big dream and a big goal and goes all in and goes for it. And so I really hope that Dan has the opportunity to play on that PGA Tour event, make the cut, and really continue this whole path, because I know that he's working extremely hard, and no matter what happens, Dan, I think, would admit that he's going to be a changed man after this whole process. And that's really what it's about. That's what we talk about a lot here on the podcast, is the idea that the journey is just as big a part of it as achieving your goal. It actually is a much bigger part. And, once you achieve that goal, then it's on to something else. So the journey is what really, really matters. So taking the time to appreciate that. And I think that the fact that he's documenting everything is so cool, and that we can follow along, we can be a part of it, we can help him out. So with that being said, I know that Dan said he's funding this whole project himself, but I did notice on his website, and he was gracious enough not to even mention this, but I did notice that he does take donations, and so I put a link up in the show notes page to the page on his website where you can actually help fund part of the process, because you can imagine how expensive this whole thing is. Years and years of playing golf, practicing, traveling, all that stuff. So if you would be inclined, to donate some money to Dan. I'm sure he would be extremely grateful. So you can go to our show notes page, and there's a link on there. I've also got all the links up for, just following Dan on Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, his website. And then you can follow, or you can see his promotional video and just the introduction video of the Dan Plan, kind of get to know him a little bit better and, kind of see what's going on with him. So Dan, if you're listening, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And go ahead and throw out a hashtag for Dan, which is hashtag TheDanPlan on Twitter, to reference this episode. And, hopefully his mission has inspired you guys. I know he's inspired me to really kind of take some bigger goals and take some steps towards moving that direction. So thank you guys again for listening. And as always, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.